Most companies have a relatively complete product development process. The product research and development process of an APP can be roughly divided into requirements analysis, user analysis, interaction design, visual design, front-end and back-end development, testing and launching, and operation and maintenance. Our main work lies in the area of interaction design and visual design. Now let's take a detailed look at the detailed product development process. There are a total of 14 steps. First is the product initiation. Product initiation includes project background, project inspection, prospects, project feasibility analysis, project market demand analysis, project scope, project planning, project human resources, project scheduling, and project technical selection. The personnel allocation of the project needs to include designers, development engineers, and the general configuration of operation personnel. For technical selection, it is generally decided by back-end engineers, and they usually analyze aspects such as the database and front-end language frameworks. Next, we come to the requirements analysis. We need to fully understand users' requirements, application scenarios, users' goals, the space of the target audience, usage time, usage motivation, and the problems to be solved. Users' requirements cannot be directly equated with product requirements. Users' requirements are based on users' subjective wishes and psychological manifestations, and product managers need to propose solutions for specific users. This is why we keep exploring users' requirements. Next, we move on to the user research part. The purpose of user research is to clarify the background and purpose of our product, select our target users, analyze the relationship between users and the product. Next, what needs to be prepared is the content of the research. Conduct the research, summarize the research results in a report. User portrait is what we often mention. The early-stage user research is carried out to extract and prepare the user portrait. A user portrait generally refers to a tag user formed by connecting information, such as user attributes, user preferences, living habits, and user behaviors. Commonly, it is called tagging users, and the tags are highly classic characteristic identifiers derived from the analysis of user information. By tagging, we can use some highly summarized and easily understandable features to describe users, making it easier for people to understand users. And it is also convenient for computer processing. When commonly use APP, we usually see that we are asked to fill in our age, hobbies, interests, etc. When we use electronic products, they often ask us to select our preferences. All these are prepared for obtaining user information. The next step is the determination of functions. A good product cannot do without the analysis and use of functions. According to the specific usage scenarios and operation processes, we extract the functional requirements of the software and the hardware environment in which the software runs. It should be supplemented here that for hardware, if it is for the mobile phone terminal, we generally expand it to the tablet terminal. If there are large screen TVs at home, we also need to expand it to the TV terminal. All these need to be considered together within the scope. Next, we come to the document output stage, which is a step in the implementation process. The documents to be output include the BRD Business Requirements document MRD Market Requirements Document, and PRD Product Requirements Document. In fact, these documents have a progressive relationship from top to bottom, and each of them plays a crucial role. The Business Requirements Document tells us from a strategic perspective what kind of product we need to develop and why. It determines the commercial value, while the Market Requirements Document tells us from a strategic perspective how to develop the product. It serves as a link between the preceding and the following. And most importantly, in terms of implementation, it is the Product Requirements Document. It tells us in great detail what kind of product should be made, and it also guarantees the quality of the product. Next, we come to the prototype interaction stage. Prototype interaction is a product framework depicted with lines, graphics, shapes, etc., also known as a wireframe. It needs to fully consider factors such as the product's goals, functional requirements, scenarios, and user experience. And it is a process of reasonably arranging the interfaces and elements of each module of the product, which is close to a high-fidelity product design draft. The main responsible personnel are generally designers and product managers, who will carry out the design of the prototype diagram. Now we come to the visual design part. In this part, we need to determine the design style, specifically including details such as color matching, icons, fonts, spacing, and visual beautification. Unify the product's design language. Generally, the effect of the APP interface seen on a mobile phone is what the renderings look like. Here, let me expand on the visual design for everyone, since our current class is about this aspect. When we establish the style in the visual design part, we generally need to communicate with the product manager. For example, whether it is a flat style or a 3D effect style. Regarding color matching, for example, whether it is a cold and aloof style or a cute style. As for icons, everyone is relatively familiar with them. Generally, they are divided into 3D ones, realistic ones, designed to be flat. Regarding fonts, when you choose them, you can use some fonts that don't require much attention to copyright during daily practice. However, when it comes to creating renderings or providing design drafts to others, you need to pay attention to copyright issues, which are being more and more strictly examined nowadays. If we download from the free resource library provided by Alibaba, it is available for free trial and has no copyright issues. The source Hand Sans font is also free. You can pay a little attention when using it. Usability evaluation, to put it simply, is what we often call user experience. Designers can let users interact with a product that simulates the real one. The method of task execution may seem less mature, but it was used in the early stage to test and discover many design problems. In the product research and development step, after the design draft by the visual designer is confirmed, it is handed over to the development department. When handing it over to the development department, the confirmed design draft and sliced images need to be provided. The architect is responsible for the design of the database and tables, and the development of the product's core framework. The front-end engineer is responsible for binding UI data and creating interaction effects, and the back-end engineer is responsible for developing functional modules, such as server-side programming and API design, so that the product can ultimately achieve the effect of a usable application. After the product development is completed, the next step is product testing. The content of product testing includes performance testing, content function testing, stress testing. After bugs are detected through testing, they are handed over to development engineers for modification and improvement. After passing the test again, it is submitted for acceptance and release. Content testing and stress testing are basically carried out by general testing engineers. However, we usually help to check the page effects, because some functions cannot be implemented during the development process. When this happens, we need to communicate with them about why these functions are cancelled. Next, we come to the process of launching, promoting, and releasing the product. What we need to pay attention to is not to violate relevant national regulations and not to have any infringement behavior. If there are charges, it is necessary to indicate and present the confirmed release platform, and prepare the relevant qualification materials required by different platforms. The iOS platform generally has strict reviews, and it usually takes 1 or 2 weeks to go live. If it takes longer, it may even take about a month. The Android platform is more convenient, and it generally takes only 2 or 3 days to pass the review. For web-based apps, generally, if the company has its own server, it can be directly uploaded, and then it can be accessed directly. Next, we come to the feedback and analysis stage. After the product is released, according to the feedback requirements from users during use, we conduct array analysis of the requirements and carry out the upgrading and iteration of the product. Everything starts again from the initial determination of functions. After the requirements are determined, these processes need to be gone through again. That is to say, this process is for the product to be upgraded through continuous iteration. Now let's talk about the role scenarios and tasks of different positions. With the progress of science and technology in the era of the Internet of Things and the era of artificial intelligence, the working scope of interface designers is getting wider and wider. The position structures in large internet companies are different from those in small and medium-sized internet companies. Now let's start talking about the roles of different positions. With the progress of science and technology, the era of the Internet, the era of artificial intelligence, and the era of 5G are coming rapidly. And the knowledge of the whole industry is also being iteratively updated. Screens appear more and more frequently in people's lives. The working scope of interface designers is getting wider and wider. And the position structures in large internet companies and small and medium-sized internet companies are also different. Let's first take a look at the structure of large internet companies. The first level is senior executives. Senior executives are responsible for making decisions on whether to carry out the project. The research team is responsible for studying user feedback. The product manager is responsible for the product's promotion schedule. The interaction designer is responsible for interaction diagrams. And the visual designer is responsible for optimizing the prototype diagrams. The front-end engineer is responsible for realizing the interaction of the interface. The back-end engineer is responsible for data architecture and program development. The tester is responsible for testing whether the functions are available. The business department is responsible for the later operation. Next, let's introduce the company structure of medium-sized internet companies. Compared with large companies, it lacks a research and development team and interaction designers. The work of interaction designers is generally handed over to visual designers, or partly shared by product managers. Still, senior executives are responsible for making decisions. Product managers are responsible for promoting the schedule and optimizing interaction diagrams. Visual designers are responsible for visual interaction and visual unity. The front-end engineer is responsible for restoring database docking. The back-end engineer is responsible for program architecture and database structure design. The tester is responsible for testing whether the program is available. And the business department is responsible for the later operation. Next, let's take a look at the structure of small internet companies. The senior executives also play the role of product managers. Visual designers are responsible for optimizing design drafts, outputting sliced images and annotations, and completing relevant design specifications. The front-end engineer is responsible for realizing data restoration and data docking. The back-end engineer is responsible for program architecture and data structure. The tester is responsible for judging whether the program is available. Small internet companies have fewer employees, make decisions quickly, have a short cycle, and a fast process. Visual designers undertake more work of interaction designers. Now, let's focus on the work of visual designers and the operation aspect. After the product is launched, most of the work is handed over to the operation team. The operation team will continuously provide new demand feedback to the project manager according to the later stage needs of users during use. The project manager will carry out redesign according to the provided requirements, and then feedback to the development team. What we designers need to do is to make our product more user-friendly and easier to operate. The operation work is divided into content operation, user operation, community operation, market operation, business operation, and product operation. But mainly, it is usually about market operation. In the aspect of market operation, when docking activities with other companies, we designers are generally responsible for creating activity posters. Both online and offline posters are the responsibility of us designers. For example, according to the feedback from users, if they think that a certain interface is inconvenient to operate, or they think that the click-through rate of an icon is very low, and the usage frequency is low, they will provide feedback again, and then we will carry out redesign. Next, let's understand the requirements of the APP. So, what kind of product do you think an e-commerce APP is? Okay, let this classmate answer. Okay, please take a seat. An e-commerce APP is a platform between people and goods, where goods provide services to people. Any APP that allows people to buy things on it can be classified as an e-commerce APP. For example, a social APP like WeChat, which we often use. O2O, offering services. And Me, which we often use to order takeout. Next, let's go back to the question. Who usually uses an e-commerce APP? Okay, this classmate. Parents at home also use it. Okay, please take a seat. Basically, its user group is quite extensive. Generally, if people need to go shopping, they can do it on an e-commerce APP. Some well-known ones, such as JD.com and Pinduoduo, are all like this. The third question is, in what situations do users use these products? Okay, this classmate. This classmate answered very well. Please take a seat. The usage scenarios are not limited. If we are at home, we can use it anytime and anywhere. To buy our favorite products, such as clothes. And school supplies can also be bought anytime and anywhere. The last question is, in what ways do users find the items they want to buy when using these products? Okay, this classmate. I think there are two ways. One is to search independently to find the things they need to buy. And the second is through popular recommendations. Okay, this classmate answered very well. Please take a seat. Yes, when we open the APP, we generally use the search function first to look for the products we need. Also, below the search box, there are recommended hot-selling products or products that people are interested in, which can usually be seen by scrolling down. There is another type of product with high credibility, which is through the links recommended by friends. We open the links and then make a purchase. What we need you to do now is a requirements analysis, and we need to focus on the tree diagram. In the requirements analysis, we generally analyze who the user group is, who is using these products, during what time period the product will be used, and what problems the product can help us solve after using it. What methods do similar competing products use to solve these problems? Are the methods they use feasible after solving the problems? And what about the user experience? Now let me explain how to create a tree diagram. Can everyone see Xmind now? When using this software, we first write the requirements of our mobile app in the first level directory. Press the Tab key, and it will automatically create the second level. If we select the second level and continue to press the Tab key, it will create 3 subsets under it. If you want to delete something, just press the Delete key. The operation is very simple. We write down the requirements and ideas, such as the usage scenarios, the main users, whether it is convenient to use, and so on. If you want to raise questions about the existing e-commerce apps, you can write them here, and then continuously refine the questions. When we keep exploring these requirement information, we are actually conducting a requirements survey. Our small task today is to conduct a requirements analysis for a mobile app. Can you all practice using Xmind now? Check whether it is convenient when adding subsets, deleting something, or changing the color.